Hello and welcome to another edition of Chuckles Madden. I'm your host, Chuckles152, and you can always catch me on YouTube, on Twitter, and on TikTok at Chuckles152. Today, I'm bringing you a personal story since some people asked me why I had beef with the one and only Dave Spadaro of the Philadelphia Eagles. I think Spuds here is a world-class little dickhead. And I will tell you why. Because I had a run-in with him circa 2005. Summer of 2005, I found myself in Havertown. I worked as a trash man, believe it or not. I was in my going into my senior year of high school. Going from my junior to my senior. I wanted to challenge myself with my summer job. I normally worked with my father as a general contractor. I hated doing that. And my uncle, who drove a trash truck, was like, why don't you throw trash like I did when I was in high school? And I'm like, you know what, man? Why not? So I ended up on a trash truck. Most weeks, I ended up on the worst route, which was the park trash route. You had to go from, some would say it's the worst. It might be the best, depending on how you look at it. If you did the normal routes on a regular trash truck, the residential ones, you got to go home early. If you did the park trash, your day was easy. I mean, you just went park to park, took breaks, and you couldn't leave until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, even though you were there at 6 a.m. If you were in the residential, I mean, you got there at 6 a.m., but you could be done by 10 a.m. and paid for the rest of the day. And then you got off Wednesdays because it's a hard job, man. I mean, those guys have it rough. You ever been on the back of a trash truck, you know it. But I digress. I'm on the park trash. And park trash, you got to hide. And one of those places we would hide is Butch's Deli, which was really made famous by a former Philadelphia Eagle, Brian Mitchell. Yes, Brian Mitchell. This same Brian Mitchell that played for the Redskins when the Philadelphia Eagles had its famous body bag game. Yeah, this guy became the quarterback that day because they had nobody else, and he was their emergency quarterback. He was an all-time Eagles return man, and to even associate with him with this story, I hate doing it, but unfortunately, he was the one that brought prominency to Butch's Deli, which was a Havertown staple off of Arlington and Brookline Boulevard. And that's where Butch's Deli was. It was right here. And the thing with Butch was he was a very outspoken, loudmouth Eagles fan like most of us, like myself. His place was decked out with Eagles gear that you just wouldn't believe, especially a crap load of stuff from one of his good friends, Brian Mitchell. So I found myself in there one day when I see a personal hero of mine, Spuds, sitting in there drinking a coffee. And I was just in shock. Like, whoa, there's Dave Spadaro of the Philadelphia Eagles, the guy that puts together the Philadelphia Eagles yearbook that I read every single year. I buy a copy and I read it. Like, how could I not be excited? But it turned away from that quickly. Yes, Butch was a loudmouth, and he had opinions on everything and anything. I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty details of who they were talking about, but something happened to a friend of mine, and it was newsworthy. It was on every news station in the area. And Butch started just railing off about this person. Now, I had been there a few times and listened to him do this to other people before, and I just assumed he actually knew them. But as he was describing this person, he was so wrong. And I'm sitting there in disgust, like, yo, like, I wanted to speak out, but the guy who drove the truck was like, yo, stop. Don't fight with Butch or we can't hang out here anymore. And this fucking dickhead joined in and was like, yeah, that person's a slut, this. And I'm like, Are you fucking kidding me? I lost all respect for this piece of shit that fucking day. That fucking day, I was like, you know what? Dude's a fucking world-class chode head. I fucking hate you, Dave Spadaro. That was the day when he was sitting in there in Butch's fucking deli talking shit on somebody he didn't even know. Neither of them did, because they didn't even come close to accurately describing the person. They just sat there, and I was just like dumbfounded. I walked out. I never went back in ever again. That rest of that summer, we may have stopped by another 20, 30 times when I'd be on that truck. I never went into that building again. I refused to talk to the dude. I was that pissed off then, and I'm still pretty pissed off about it now, and I'll hold that grudge against Dave Spadaro forever until he's done with the Philadelphia Eagles, because yes, in my opinion, Dave Spadaro is a world-class fucking dick douche. I don't ever want to talk to him again. I don't, like, every time he comes onto the radio, even during the Eagles pregame, I shut it off, because that's how much disgust I have for the things that came out of his mouth that day. Thanks for listening, everybody. Talk to you soon.